Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of To The Point podcast. You guys are all doing well. Back again tonight after talking about a lot of COVID in my first podcast today, which I did not want to talk about, but I kind of get into a few different facsimiles that I think could work in the sports world when it comes to avoiding COVID or dealing with it. So feel free to listen to that, and maybe you'll hate my comments, which is fine too. That's part of the job here, but. We're back here Tuesday night because we are getting down to it when it comes to Breaking Bad. We have, after tonight, we'll have 4 episodes left of this show, if you can believe it. 5 seasons we would have, ran through, which is crazy. Some really interesting episodes tonight to talk about. But Shay, I know you've been busy. Home stretch to Christmas. Accountants. The next couple months are really where you make your money, so to speak. So. How's the mental health? How's things going on your end?
Good. Ask me that question in another couple months, I'll probably say a different answer, but no, it's been good so far. Yeah, like you said, just kind of getting busy until we get our little break. And then, I'm sure I'll be seeing lots of you and a lot of other people from home. So excited for that. But more importantly, yeah, like you said, COVID keeps kind of effing up our plans for the week/weekends. And that's not much fun. So I was happy that I was get to see you and a couple other buddies last weekend.
Yeah, no, it was good to get up there and see you in Kennedy's place. So it was great, and thank you again for having me. And it was great to watch the fights and just be normal, because it's I think we took advantage of that 2 years ago. I'm not going to anymore because I know, as we know, it can be taken away, even if the circumstances aren't that dire. But we won't get into that tonight. I'll save that opinion for myself and Derp to hear it later on in the evening. So last week we really, obviously, we talked about Hank uncovering that Walt is Heisenberg. He's trying to figure out how he's going to take him down. He has not told anyone at the DEA yet. He's thinking he can use Jesse to potentially talk to Jesse and use him as an informant. And we really ended last week's episode with Hank entering the room to talk to Jesse.
Yeah, if we can remember, Jesse's kind of a little bit on a bender, you could say, as he's partially lost his mind. I mean, he was throwing tens of thousands of dollars just out the window, what felt like every house he was passing by, until he finally landed into that park. And then obviously he was picked up by the police. And we know at the end of the last episode, he was being questioned by Saul Goodman likes to call him, Tall and Taller. Mm-hmm. And then our good friend Agent Schrader kind of bops in, and we know that these two have a history. So leaving this to the last scene, or not the last scene, I guess him walking into the interrogation room kind of makes for an anticipating opening scene for this episode.
Right. And we'll start with that. We'll jump back to how the episode actually starts, because I think it's good to start with Hank. So like you said, he enters the interrogation room, shuts off the camera. Jesse's still like staring at the wall, like not even caring that it's Hank who once nearly beat him and ended his life. He's still just staring at the wall, not knowing what's going on. But, he says that he tells Jesse that he knows Walt is Heisenberg and that he worked with him. And he says, I'll give you immunity. I'll talk to the DA. I'll do everything I can for you, for your cooperation. And Jesse is not having it.
Yeah. He tells him to eat him, which I thought was a funny line, a little Bart Simpson reference. And more importantly, one thing I noticed about this scene is that Hank reads the room really well. He can tell that Walter and Jesse are not getting along. They're not on great terms. And he tries to use that to his advantage, and basically saying, like, I'm not happy with Walter. You're not happy with Walter. Well, let's team up and let's get this guy. And to Jesse's credit, he's not a snitch, and he's not going to bend over for Hank and basically tell him anything.
Right. So, Hank's kind of just like says, yeah, like you said, like we can take him down together. He's lied to the both of us. He's a scumbag. Let's get him. But as this is happening, our good buddy Saul walks in and he says, holy crap, Agent Schrader, you're not supposed to be in here. He's like, beat it, get out of here. And before he rats, because we didn't know what Jesse was going to do, didn't seem like he was going to, but we do find out that Saul's like, did you tell him anything? Jesse's like, no. And Walt has given Saul enough money so that Jesse can post bail.
Yeah, which I mean, he's much better hands outside of the ADP, which is the police department, than he is inside. So yeah, Saul kind of gets him out there. He's frantic because he's like, well, do you know about basically Hank knowing about Walter? And it's the cat's out of the bag that Hank is basically aware, but right now obviously doesn't have jack shit and can't really prove anything to take down the great Heisenberg.
Right. So Saul gives Walt a call. He goes, okay, I'll be there soon. Like, just keep him with you. And Junior comes home and he's talking to Walter, but then he hears the phone ring, and he's actually, I think he's in the bathroom at this point, kind of dealing with a few things. And he says, Aunt Marie just called. She wants me to go over, help her with some electronic thing and stay for supper. And of course, as we know, they want to get Junior and Holly out of the house and in their hands very desperately. So Walt, being the scumbag that he is, decides to pull at the heartstrings. He goes out there and he goes, buddy, I passed out yesterday. That's why I got this black eye, and the cancer's back, and I'm doing chemo, but you go to your Aunt Marie's, like, she needs you, and knowing full well that Junior was never going to leave his father.
Yeah, he got the response he wanted, basically saying no way, and they share an embracing moment, but for obviously wrong reasons, in the sense that Walter's doing everything he can to keep, for one, keep his secret or secrets, and also keep the kids away from Hank and Marie, which if they get them, who knows, if Holly were to take if Marie were to take Holly that day in the last episode, they probably wouldn't have got her back, let's be honest.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And he also lies to him. We know that it's terminal. Yeah. And he says, I can beat this. Like, it's no big deal. Like, I've done it before. But we know it's terminal, and he doesn't tell his son that. What did you think of that move?
I couldn't tell if it was, for him, he's probably trying to comfort his son, in the sense that he's not trying to make him worry, which, I mean, he's going to worry either way.
Right.
But I think he sprung it on too quick to say, hey, by the way, like, this is terminal. So he had to go with a different option. So he wanted to keep Walter Jr. from going to Marie's, but at the same sense, he didn't want to make him think, oh, well, I just got this devastating news, my father's dying, right?
Right. I agree. The only thing I would push back is that, just using, a personal example, when, my grandparents got cancer, and I know you've had family members that have had cancer. Everybody loses somebody to cancer. It's such a terrible disease, but I knew it was terminal, and it sucks when you first hear that. Obviously, the next couple of days are not fun. But I do think it's better because over time, because when that person passes away, it's not so much sad, it's almost relief that they're not suffering anymore. Whereas if you give somebody hope and then they die, say, suddenly, you don't really have that grieving time to kind of process it and be ready to accept it. Where, you have the opportunity in this case where, say, a car accident, you don't, because it's such a sudden thing. So that'd be my only pushback to Walt in this situation.
Yeah, and like we said, Walter, at least from what we can tell, he thinks he only has about 6 months left, or at least that's what he tells Hank. That might have also been a lie, but so he's really not giving even his son a sliver of hope here, because even if he wanted to pretend like he was going to live longer or beat the cancer again, he's not really going to at all.
No, not at all. So we see this scene. And this is an interesting one. We see Walt, and he's talking to Skylar. She comes home and he says, this is the only way, Skylar. We have to do this. And at first it looks like they're filming a confession. He's got the camcorder out. He's sitting on the bed. And he's sitting there, he says, "Hello, I'm Walter Hartwell White." And it looks like he's about to divulge, to just say on camera that he was this meth cook, that he was Heisenberg. And we believe that for a minute because they decide to go to dinner with Hank and Marie.
Yeah, ultimately you're thinking, well, this is the confession, this is the hash out that he's waiting for. But and it's this funny scene. They go to this like local Mexican restaurant, and they have this waiter named Trent, and it's always like the nicest, most genuine waitress or waiter waiting you when you have like terrible news. It's like, you ever see that one where it's like, I don't know, like the couple's going through a divorce, and you just got the guy coming over, hey, what can I get you guys? And
want some more bread?
That's the scene here. And obviously this is a very tense scene, because Hank looks like he can basically go over the table at any minute and just kill Walter with his bare hands.
Right.
And Marie is clearly visibly uncomfortable, even sitting next to him. So yeah, this is a very, and it's not what you think, I guess, going into it. Like you said, you thought it was going to be a confession and maybe Walt was going to give himself up, but it's turns out to be something quite different.
Right. So Hank says, "So you ready to confess?" And Walt says, "I have nothing to confess to, but we're gonna have to tell you to stop trying to lure Junior to your home. Like that's not gonna happen. Enough of that." And Marie's just like said, beside herself. She goes like, "You're terrible. Like she shouldn't be there with you. Like you're a threat." But they say, "Well, the investigation will crush him, and he's never gonna get over this. He's 17 years old. It's just gonna." And Hank's like, "Oh, fuck that. Like I'll get him over it. Like he'll get past it." But Walt says, "Hank, you have no evidence, and this is gonna tear the family apart. There's no reason for you to do this. You should just let it go and let's move on as a family."
Yeah, even Hank gets snappy with Skylar and basically says, if you're going to stick with him, like you're going down the same path he is, which is the first time that he's kind of threatened that way towards Skylar.
Yeah.
Basically claiming that she's part of the criminal empire, he keeps calling it. And, even at one point it gets pretty dark, and Marie says, "You know what? Here's a solution for you, Walter. You say you're going to die. Why don't you just kill yourself?" And she says it repeatedly and kind of makes it, basically makes it pretty uncomfortable for everybody at the table.
Yeah, it's not good.
Meanwhile, you got Trent coming over. He's like, "Oh, we make the guacamole right at the table,"
which is even better because it's like, "Oh, we have to stay here while you guys are just staring into the abyss."
Yeah.
But Hank is like, "No," he said, "You got one option: be a man and admit it, or I'll lock your ass up for good." And Walt's like, "Okay, well." And they get up to leave the table, but he slides a DVD onto the table towards Hank, kind of thinking that he's going to give a confession, the DVD, to Hank, kind of admit his sins. But Shay, that's not what happens whatsoever.
Marie and Hank get home. They're standing in front of the TV waiting, and just like how Walter starts recording it, "My name is Walter Heartland or Heartless White, and I live at blah blah blah, New Mexico." And he proceeds to lay the whole blame onto Hank and says, Hank used me in a desperate situation. He knew I was in financial ruin and I wasn't going to make any money. And he showed me how much these meth labs can make even a small operation. And it's quite the turn of events. I mean, I'll let you go a little bit more into it, but it's quite a way to manipulate his story.
Yeah, he says, "Hank has built this meth empire. He forced me to cook. I had cancer. He preyed on me. And he partnered with this guy, Gustavo Fring. And, they were good for a while, but then, Gustavo tried to take out Hank and he got injured. And through that time, they still forced me. I was so scared. They threatened my family." And he's even crying on the camera. And he said, Hank killed Gus because he was trying to take more money. And then he threatened to he took my kids away from me for 3 months. And they're just staring at the camcorder at this point, just like, what the hell is going on? And he's like I said, crying throughout. And he says, I tried to quit the business, but he just wouldn't let me do it. And at the end of it, he kind of throws in that he, paid for medical bills for Hank. And this was the first time Hank had really learned where that money had come from.
Yeah, he looks towards Marie and says, what the hell is he talking about? I thought our insurance covered that. And Marie just goes, I thought it was gambling money. I thought it was just them helping us out.
Mm-hmm.
But Walter, being the shady bastard he is, turns even a charitable donation against the guy he's helping out. And if you look at it from a cop perspective, Juggy, this doesn't look good, because obviously it looks exactly like what Walter says he's doing, and he's probably got the statements to show it.
Right. Yeah. It's completely plausible, because, he's been through a lot. I mean, he's been beaten up. He's been acting erratic. He's not the same person. And Hank would have all the information, all the ties. He was the one fixated on this case, fixated on it being Gustavo Fring. So to have the inside track, it totally, it makes some sense. And he tells Marie as well, after, being irate, that he kind of says, like, I'm done. Like, we're screwed. Like, he basically has me in checkmate, and I don't have a move. Like, I'm in a corner. I'm a little pawn, and he's got his rook coming down, and I'm dead.
And we also learn that it's not, this isn't something Walter plans on doing, but it's basically a threat to Hank and Marie to kind of lay off the family, or he will produce this and probably send it to, whoever, DAA Gomi. And, that just makes it so much worse. He's just got that hanging over their heads. Like, God knows what else you could do if, it's even extra motivation for Hank to really put away Walter now, and also protects him. It also protects Hank from killing Walter outright, which I don't think Hank would do. No. But yeah, it does imply, like, if Walter were to ever go missing, well, Hank's number one, uno numero suspect.
Right. So Hank, at this point, his hands are really tied, because he has no play. He can't act. So he's kind of like, what the hell am I going to do? So Walt, being cavalier, he feels pretty good about himself again. He's back in the power position, even though he's still a scumbag. He goes to meet Jesse and Saul in the desert. And, Jesse informs Walt that Hank does not know much, that he, said that he believes that, he said he knows that he's Heisenberg. Says he doesn't think the rest of the DA knows, because he turned off the camera when he got in there. He was super secretive when he talked to the other police officers. And Walt kind of tells Saul to beat it, because he's concerned about Jesse's mental health. And Walter's just basically wants to have a private conversation with Jesse.
Yeah. And, he proceeds to do his, we'll call it dad-like impersonation, and says, Jesse, like, you should just get away. Saul's got this guy, you pay him a large fee, but you get to restart your life. He's like, I wish I was that young, like, one of those. And the whole time, credit to Jesse, he's like, can you just stop BSing me for 10 fucking seconds and just tell me it's truth? Just tell me that you need me to do this so I can go away and stop being a problem.
Right. He goes, just stop jerking me around. Like, could you just not? And Walt's like, I'm not jerking you around, Jesse. Like, I mean it sincerely. He just goes, just ask me for a favor. Just ask and I'll do it. But just admit that I'm a problem. And then if I say no, if I say I'm not going to do it, that you'll kill me like you did, like you killed Mike.
Yeah, pretty intense scene. And you don't really know what the response is going to be here. Yeah. Walter immediately starts walking towards Jesse, and you're like, okay, well, could get physical. Maybe he does have a gun. Maybe he has something. But he proceeds to kind of forcefully hug Jesse and really grasp him. Jesse's, in tears at this point. He's kind of irate, and he just kind of holds him for a little bit, signaling like, like that's not at all what I meant. And you really get the sense that Walter, at this point, may or may not care for Jesse, even a little bit.
Yeah, it's so hard to figure out. I think we've talked about this, but I think he does, subliminally. I think he does view him as a son type figure, but he's willing to and we see he used Junior in this episode. He's willing to use people he cares about to get what he wants. So I just say, to boil it down, Walter is a shitty father. He's a shitty human being. And I think he's a shitty parent because Jesse will do whatever he says. He doesn't have to work him. He doesn't have to treat him like shit, but he does anyway, knowing that he doesn't have to. That is the antithesis of a shitty human being, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Using the ones you care about for your own personal gain. That can't be a lower of low. There's the ultimate scum right there. It's bad enough to do it to someone you don't even know, a complete stranger, but to stab someone that you love in the back even seems a little bit worse.
Yeah. So we learned Jesse has agreed to go. He's going to leave Albuquerque. He's leaving the area. He's starting a new life, and he's at Saul's place. We find out that Saul's guy who works at a vacuum repair place. He costs $125,000, but you get a full new life. You get a new identity. So Jesse is good. Walter is giving him a little extra cash so he can start his new life on the right foot. And he's still out of control. He tries to light a joint in the room. Saul goes, "Put that out. Like, if he finds drugs on you, you're not going anywhere." But he goes, you'll get to say where you go. It's your life. Like, it's that money. And he kind of said, "What about Florida? Got the heat, good stuff." And Jesse says, "What about Alaska?"
Yeah, where if you had a personal getaway and you're in this position, Doug, you got to get out of Rex and MB. Where's the go-to location for you?
Anywhere in the world or North America?
And anywhere in the world. Yeah, we won't limit ourselves here.
Definitely a warm climate.
You like shorts.
Yes, I do. I would probably go Florida or New Zealand.
Wow, those are two and far between.
No,
I like the answer
because of the heat, obviously, and a lot of sports. New Zealand, because of it just looks really cool. As you know, I'm not a big sightsee guy, but something I would love to do is walk the path to Mordor in New Zealand. That's something that I got on the bucket list maybe one day. So what about you?
I never give it much thought. I don't know if it was anywhere in the world, probably somewhere, me, I'm a low-key guy, Hawaii, maybe somewhere where I just kind of get away and hide. If I was actually trying to hide, if I was, maybe doing something different, I'd go to a bigger city. Greece, maybe somewhere like that. That'd be cool. Same as you though, warm climate. I'm not pulling a Pinkman and going to Alaska.
Yeah, I mean, you go from New Mexico, dry heat, to go to Alaska. That's quite the shift. But he goes, Saul's kind of like, yeah, you could do that. Just, well, Alaska's good. Yeah, okay, yeah, sure. So they shake hands. He goes, "Good luck, Jesse." Our buddy Huel drives him to the pickup location. He leaves. Jesse's there by a bunch of rocks, just kind of standing. He starts kind of reaching into his person, looking for his pack of smokes. But while he's doing this, I think he's reaching for something. It might be drugs, Shay. That's my thought, is he had maybe some more contraband on him or something different. And he's like, "Where is it?" And he starts to look irate, and he's starting to you see his brain is going. He goes, wait, this, if they pickpocket me here, maybe they did it in the past. And we see this old van pull up, and Jesse's so close to freedom. He just has to step in the van and he's free of all this nonsense, but he can't get over it. He walks past the van, it drives away, and he is hell-bent heading back to Saul.
Yeah. I mean, watching it again, and I totally forgot why he's like looking around, because he's just looking at his cigarettes, and I'm like, well, what's wrong? Like, what's going on? Like, what's causing such distress? And yeah, I mean, the scene afterwards, our poor friend Saul Goodman, he enters his office and proceeds to leave a beatdown on Saul, and Saul kind of goes for a gun in his desk, and Jesse grabs it and basically he says, like, I know it was you. I know he had you do it.
Right. And Saul's kind of like, what? Yeah, okay, I admit it. I took the dope off you. Huel did it. Yes, it's true. He goes, no, back, you took the ricin. I know you did it. You gave it to Brock. He made you do it, didn't he? And he's got a gun right to his head. And Saul goes, yes, I did it. I didn't want to. I'm not proud of it, but he made me do it. He made your partner, he's crazy. He made me do it. And Jesse grabs Saul's keys and he leaves the office.
Yeah, it's are we into that in episode 10 yet, or not episode 10, episode 11? Are we?
We're episode 11 right now. We're almost through this one.
Okay.
Saul on the ground, all bloody, calls Walt, and Walt is at his chemo. So he drives back, parks about an inch away from the door, and he kind of walks in. He's like, yeah, so the fridge has been a little wonky lately. I mean, give it a look. This guy was like, I don't care. Go grab a Coke, like whatever. And we see he's got the master key. He opens up the machine and he has a gun in there. So he quietly grabs it, sneaks it in his pocket, and he kind of lies again to Skylar, saying, oh, I forgot it. I got to go get some meds. And he leaves, and we know he's heading back to his house thinking that Jesse is on a warpath looking for him somewhere.
Yeah, and we don't get to see all of it, but we do get to see Jesse, drive right into the White residence. He takes out a gas can and breaks their front door down and proceeds to, basically spray the entire living room all the way towards the kitchen with gasoline. And, that's really the last thing we see before Walter pulls up.
Yeah, if you're gonna burn down a house, this is a good way to do it. I found this super creative from the writers, because when do you ever see a jerry can in a home? Number one, like that's other than like a Grand Theft Auto on that level where Trevor burns that house, the meth lab, oddly enough, house down. But this was interesting that Jesse spiraled this much that he's like, I'm gonna burn this asshole's house down.
Oh yeah, no, he's clearly on a warpath, thinking, okay, well, Walter lied to me. He did poison Brock, even though he told me it was Fring. And yeah, so that's the last thing we see of Jesse. But like we said, Walter pulls up to his house, sees Saul's car in the driveway, and it's this very, very tense scene where Walter's creeping around his home. He's got his gun. We know Jesse probably has a gun. And Walter slides his back door open, walks in, and he yells down the hallway, but he gets no response. He sees that his basically house is covered in gasoline. So he's like, well, this guy's not bad intentions. But we also know that Jesse didn't burn the house down. So, we're thinking, well, is he waiting for him? Is he going to trap him in his house and then burn it? But, we see Walter's he's at the end of his hallway, and his bedroom door's closed, so we assume Jesse is in there.
Right. So he goes in, he comes back up. He's like, what the hell happened? He sees the jerry can on the floor. That, like you said, the house is littered in gas. And as a viewer, we're just like, okay, what happened? Where's Jesse? Like, what? From where he was, why the hell would he leave the house? It makes no sense. But Walt is just kind of like, what happened here? Like, where's Jesse? But the car is still there. It's still going. And we see Walt has called a few people. He's called extreme carpet cleaners to try to get gas out of carpet. Good luck with that. He's also called a locksmith to fix the door. Like you said, Jesse literally broke it, the hinges off the door. So he's getting the same locks put in the door, but the locksmith's like, somebody broke in, you want the exact same lock? He goes, yes, it has to be the same thing. And he's also talking to Huel, and Huel's taking Saul's car, and Walt kind of says, go to junior school. I don't think he'd hurt my son, but make sure that everybody in my life is safe.
Yeah. One little detail, and I didn't really think about this. You always pick things up on the second go, Juggy. The CD that he picks up from Saul's car.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't notice this the first time, but this is our indication that Jesse's back kind of doing hard drugs, because there's a bunch of blow on this CD. This is kind of what he was going on, and then goes into this spiral where he goes into the house, breaks the door down, and does that. So I think it's just kind of indicating that like he's basically on a bad one, and he can be unpredictable, kind of like when we saw him a few seasons ago try and kill those drug dealers. Well, he took a little bump, went out with his pistol and was basically ready to die. So maybe he had the same intentions here. Maybe, if he burned Walter's house down, great, but in the same process, he didn't really care about his own life.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe he puts all the gas in there and he burns himself in there with it. I mean, like you said, he's completely unhinged. And I do think he'd want to get even with Walter, but clearly he was willing to burn his house down. I mean, that says something. The carpet cleaners come to Walt and they say, yeah, we went 3 times through it. Like, but you can still hear it. It's the gas. It's the house stinks. You can hear it sloshing. And he goes, no, like you gotta clean it. And basically they tell him, like, you're gonna have to get new carpet. That's the only way. But he doesn't have enough time to completely rip the carpet out before Skylar gets home. So Walter and just his genius self, his lies are getting worse and worse as the seasons go on. I don't know if you can blame the cancer on that one, but he says, yeah, I was pumping gas and there was this malfunction, and the pump didn't say it was off. So I spray gas all over me, all over my clothes. I race home and I chuck them on the floor while I'm getting new ones. And see, it's just idiot me. And Junior's like, Dad, could you just cut the shit for 1 second? Kind of like, vintage Jesse. And he says, it was the cancer, wasn't it? You fainted again.
Yeah. He's like, oh no, like I might have had like a swaying moment when I smelled the gas, but I swear, it was a thing. And right away, I mean, anytime Walter goes on one of these crazy stories where he's something that just seems pretty much impossible, I feel like Skylar knows he's lying, but has the respect not to call him out in front of his son, which good for her, because I think after all the lies, you'd probably just give up at some point.
Right. And yeah, she's just kind of like, look, like just in that death stare, like you're so stupid. But he says, well, this house, we can't stay here. Like the gas, like this is Holly shouldn't even be, in this. She can't even be breathing this right now. So he pitches that the family go to a hotel, and Junior's all about it. He goes, yeah, like this is a great idea. So he goes to pack some clothes, and kind of Walt fills her in sort of on what happened there.
Who, Skylar?
Yeah.
Oh, as I get to the hotel, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, he goes out to meet Saul, and basically he's like, okay, you gotta find Jesse. And then Saul, of course, loves to imply, oh, just like old, was it old Lessie or Bessie? What's that dog's name?
Old Bessie.
And he's like, oh, old Bessie, she was loyal to the very end, but she got rabies. And Walter shuts it down right away, and I'm more and more surprised by this, because first Jesse's basically becoming a problem by throwing money out his window left and right. Now he basically threatens their house and whoever was in it
indirectly.
Yeah. And Walter still has the loyalty to him to say, no, like we're not killing him. Like that's not an option here. Does that surprise you, or is that
slightly? But I think they're so intertwined that he can't. And it's funny too, because he must have the utmost faith that he wouldn't rat, that he wouldn't rat on him, because he's other than Saul, and Saul has proven to be pretty loyal to Walter throughout all of this, Jesse's the only one that can tie him to meth. Really, if you think about it, Shay, Mike's dead, Gus is dead, all those guys in jail are dead. The only threat to Walter being exposed through Hank is Jesse, and he's willing to keep him alive and in his life after all that he's done to him in the past couple days.
Yeah, no, exactly. And he goes back upstairs, and right away, Skyler's like, "Oh, how's Saul?" And Walter just goes, "Saul who? Saul Goodman?" And he's like, "Yes, Walter. Like, I just saw you talk to him." And Walter gets caught in his own lies. Says, you know, okay, this is what really happened. Jesse Pinkman came over, and for I love how he loves to downplay it. He's like, "Oh, just for half a second, he thought he was gonna burn her house, but he changed his mind."
Yeah.
And Skylar has a right to be worried here because
Yes.
she even says you kept saying like that the danger was gone, like there was no one going to come to our front door. Well, someone came to our front door and almost hurt our family. Like what now? And she basically says, "What's one more body?" And tells Walter he's got to make a decision here, and he's got to end a relationship he's had since the beginning.
Yeah, so that's not something I think Walter's ready to decide yet, but Skylar's even giving him permission to eliminate it because she's worried about the health of her family long term. So it's at this point in the episode we pivot all the way back to the end of episode 11, and it's Jesse. The same scene, like I said, he's got the coke on the disc. He's doing that. Breaks down the door. He starts throwing gas everywhere, kind of yelling out slurs about Walter. And he finds a magazine, lights it. He gets the lighter, putting it on fire. But who runs in the door but Hank? And Hank says, Jesse, no, drop it. And he says, "Come on, let's take him down together." And Jesse is he can't keep getting away with this. And he tried to kill a little kid. And Hank goes, I hate him too, but not like this. I don't want to kill you, Jesse. I really don't. Let's just take a drive. Let's take him down together. And Jesse ultimately decides to listen to Hank.
Yeah, we do a poor recap sometimes, ladies and gents. We forgot to mention that Hank had guys on Jesse from quite a while, and they got pulled. So we doesn't say this, but Hank ends up taking their place and kind of following Jesse himself, aka why he's able to catch him in this catch him in the heat of the moment, no pun intended. But yeah, are you surprised? Like at this point, like for Jesse, he's on drugs. He's got a heart full of hate. Are you surprised he even thinks that Hank is trustable at this scene or this level? I guess
I think he's so desperate, and I think he knows that Hank wants him just as much as he does. Like they're both so self-interested that he's like, if I can trust anybody, it's him in this moment because he has no alternative motive. He just wants to take down Walter. I want the same thing. So maybe he has, resources that can help me. And at the same time, I cannot go to prison or, serve life and, go to jail for the rest of my life if I help Hank here.
Yeah. Saving his own ass and at the same time trying to take down Walter. I guess it's a good way of looking at it.
So they go back, they get in the car, he buckles up Jesse, and he's still like staring into the abyss, like completely out of it. And so they go back. Hank says first, like, we're going downtown to the DEA. And credit to Jesse, he goes, that's not a good idea. And Hank's like, what do you mean? Because you see the last 10 guys that were in your lockup, they ended up dead. They couldn't tell you anything.
A little bit of a slap in his face too.
Yeah, he goes, he's got people that can kill me from the inside. I need to be in protective custody. So Hank takes that to heart and he takes his advice, and they go to Casa Schrader.
Yeah, it's this funny scene. We get to see Marie, I guess, before we see Hank and Jesse at their house. And Marie is talking about, well, she's talking to her therapist, but what else is she talking about to her therapist? What does she search up at night?
She's Googling details on poison. So she's basically admitting to having thoughts about killing somebody.
Homicidal thoughts.
Yeah, she can't divulge who it's about, like the therapist, like, Marie, like, you got to talk to me. And she goes, no, I can't. But it's like family friends doing this, and it's really upsetting. And I thought I could trust him. And he's kind of like, well, you got to give me something. And she's just like, could you just not, could you just talk about me for a second and not focus on all this crap? But basically, yeah, she's admitting to having homicidal thoughts, and that she's basically thinking, staying up at night about how different ways to kill Walter.
Yeah, which shows a level of hate that she's developed, obviously, over these last, we'll say, week or days or whatever, however long it's been. But yeah, I mean, just kind of shows. And as she gets home, her bags are packed, and Hank kind of greets her at the door, like, "Oh, I thought you could use some time away from the house. Like, I booked you this lovely spa place, hotel." And he goes, well, we have a guest. And he shows a sleeping Jesse in the room, clearly coming off a couple lines. And she's like, oh, okay, well, that's fine, but I'm staying, and the lasagna is in 5 minutes.
Yeah, she's invested in this. She wants to be there when he gets taken down too. She has a rooting interest. And he goes, okay, but she doesn't care that he's there. She's like, cool, if this is what you need to take down that son of a bitch, you do it. He can stay here as long as you want. So she's cool with that. So next morning, Jesse wakes up. He's kind of looking at pictures of Walter dressed as Santa Claus one year, and he's kind of like looking at it, and he opens up the door, and then Marie's at the end of the hall. It's this funny scene where she goes, do you like coffee? He goes, yeah. And then he walks in, and Hank's like, oh, hey, you're up. Want some coffee? And he goes, well, the lady, I think, is getting it.
He's so awkward, right? Like, one thing about Jesse's character that you love is that he's not a conventional, how do I put it, Samaritan / citizen.
Yeah.
He clearly doesn't do well in certain areas, we'll say, or certain scenes. And seeing him in a nice home is just different from the norm for him.
Yeah, he's like civilized society, like just good people. He's kind of like, how do I act here? How do I appear to be normal when it's so clear that he isn't? So he gets the coffee from Marie, and he sits down, and Hank's got the camcorder, and he basically says, tell your story, tell us everything you know about him. But Jesse's like, well, this is going to be no good. There's no physical evidence that ties Walter. It's just his word against mine. It's not going to work. But he goes through the whole spiel. We don't really see it, but we know it's on tape. But Gomi meets with Hank outside, after this long spiel. He admits to saying, yeah, I believe him, Hank, but the kid's right. Like, we have no physical evidence to tie Walter to these crimes.
Yeah, because like Jesse says, it's his word against Walter's, and who know, like, for one, who's a more credible source, this ex teachers / businessman, or Jesse, who looks like he's been on a 4-day bender with droops over his eyes. So it's kind of incredible, but Hank's got a backup plan. He says, you know what, I got this message, and I think you should hear it. And it's basically Walter saying, listen, let's meet at some Albuquerque park.
Yeah.
And
like a plaza, the town plaza. Yeah.
Yeah, like a downtown plaza, like very open, middle of the day. Let's meet at 12 o'clock noon tomorrow, and we can just talk. And if you want to come and shoot me in the head, he even says, you can do it. And Hank's like, we're going to use this to take Walter down.
Right. And Jesse's like, this is your plan? Like, we're going to walk into his trap? Like, this guy's killed people. Like, how do you know he won't kill me? And he's fighting against it. And Hank kind of butts in. He goes, yeah, no, this wasn't a negotiation. Like, you're doing it. And yeah, like, we're going there today. You're going to go talk to him. We're going to put a wire on you, and don't just talk to him. Let him tell you what he's done. Admit to it on camera. And then we have something to go with.
Yeah. So he basically wants him to tell him about the kid. Like, Jesse's going to confront him about Brock, and then he's going to admit it. And that's kind of like the snowball for it's going to snowball from there down the hill. One scene we kind of forgot to mention, Juggy, I don't know if this is the beginning of episode 11 or episode 12. Todd is in a diner, and we see him in a diner with his uncle and his associate. And this is kind of scene where they're sitting in the diner, and Todd's reminiscing about the train heist and says, Walter says it was the biggest train heist, and he's really talking up Walter a lot. If you noticed,
he thinks very highly of him.
Yeah, he thinks very, very highly of him. Thinks he's a smart guy, and really impressing these two gentlemen. And then they kind of share the scene. But one thing that's interesting is that the uncle goes to the bathroom, and he's kind of got some blood on his shoe. So if we can remember last episode, it was the uncle, Todd, and some of their men took out Declan while he was meeting Lydia. Mm-hmm. And so wipes it off, throws it in to the toilet. Nothing ever happened of it. That's kind of where that lies. But one thing that we see is that they're bringing all the methylamine back to New Mexico, where they are intended to cook, essentially.
Yeah, so they're talking, and he goes, "Yeah, it's a great story, but like, Todd, are you ready to cook?" Like, they took all the equipment, and he goes, "Yeah, like, I feel that I'm ready. I'm not Mr. White or anything. I can get like 75% pure." But basically, they're breeding Todd to be their meth cook, so that he can cook for them. And now Uncle Jack would be the new head honcho in Albuquerque, with Walter out of the picture. Declan's dead. No Gustavo. So this neo-Nazi is now the meth leader of New Mexico.
Yeah, and that's where that kind of ends from this point on. But of course, you get a great last scene here from episode 12, and I'll let you take it away.
So Jesse enters the plaza. Hank's like, just go up and talk to him. So he's walking through, and we see Walter. He's sitting at a park bench, and Jesse's about a foot away from him, but Walter's facing the other way, so he doesn't see him. And Jesse just stops, and Gomi, who's at a different location, says, like, what the hell's he doing? Why'd he stop? And Jesse's just staring, and we see in the corner there's this really shady looking guy, and it looks like a guy that would kill you. Just reading a book by its cover. And Jesse's like, "Fuck this, I'm out of here." So he walks about a couple feet away to a payphone, and the two guys are like, "What the hell is this little piece of shit doing?" And he calls Walter, and he basically says, like, "Nice try. I'm not falling for this." And Walt goes, "Just Jesse, where are you? Just come talk to me. Let's talk this out. Like, I don't want any trouble." And he says, No. You've done too much shit to me, but I'm not giving you the satisfaction of doing it this way. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hurt you where it really, really hurts, and where it counts," he says. And clearly that wasn't his home, but he ends the call that way, and he starts, just walking out of the plaza with Walter looking around thinking, okay, where the hell is he? Yeah.
Walter kind of starts walking away, and we see that the sketchy guy, Jesse, was supposedly, thought he was his hitman, was just waiting for his kid. So he had nothing to do with Walter. Walter genuinely just kind of wanted to meet Jesse, or so we think. And, Jesse gets picked up by Hank, and, Hank's screaming at him. He's like, "What the hell's wrong with you? Like, we had him, hit him by the balls." And Jesse just goes, there's another way. There's a better way to take out him. So it leaves great ending, but fortunately we're missing one part, and that's Walter's final call.
Yeah, so Walt is completely he's like completely befuddled a little bit, and I think he finally realizes that Skylar is right. Like, okay, he tried to burn down my house. He just threatened me to do something worse than burn down my home. So he is now a legitimate threat. He's no longer my partner. We are on opposite sides, and I need to deal with this. So he calls Todd, and he goes, "Hey, Todd." And Todd's like asking him how his day was or something. He goes, "It's fine. Yeah, okay." And he goes, "I have another job for your uncle." And then the scene cuts to black, ending the episode.
Yeah, two great, parting scenes, because for one, we know that Jesse's got something stewed up. He's got an idea, and we from the past, and especially this past season, we know Jesse's got some pretty good ideas. Go back to the train heist, going back to the magnet, even from the beginning of the season.
Right.
So he's definitely got something brewing, and he's got something on Walter that probably no one else in the world has. And same time with Walter, he's cut ties with the only good relationship you could say outside of his family that he might have, and he's willing to go back to his evil ways and getting back to business with one of your favorite characters, Todd.
Yeah, old Todd. Yeah. So we got 4 episodes left, which is crazy. The next 2 are really, really good.
Some of the best TV. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's some fantastic TV. I think 2 of the best episodes. I believe episode 14 won an Emmy for that episode, just the way it goes, and it's fantastic. But yeah, for everybody listening, if you're following along with us, watching the show as we go along, these next 2 episodes are a must watch. They are really, really thrilling. And I'm looking forward to talking about it next week, right before Christmas. But Shay, anything that you've watched recently that you really like? Anything you're following other than Breaking Bad that obviously we cover every week?
Yeah, no, if we're being honest, I haven't caught a decent flick in a while. I know we talked briefly about House of Gucci, and now you said you were a tad bit, tad maybe is not the right word, disappointed in the outcome. I still probably will watch it, probably just in the future. Mm-hmm. I really like the cast, and I'm big Driver fan.
Yeah.
But other than that, not a ton. Still watching a little bit of Succession. Still watch The Wire. I watch probably an episode of The Wire a week. I don't even know if I told you that, because just a good show to follow along with, and it's got great characters. So, movie wise, though, nothing. But what about you? Any trailers? Anything you've seen recently that you think may be good?
Well, you got me intrigued about that superhero movie, but that would require me to watch the first 2, which I'm not willing to do. So maybe I can go in blind. I don't know. It doesn't seem like you need to watch the first 2. So
no, I don't think so. I think maybe the end of the second movie kind of plays into a big factor into but they're like most superhero movies. It's a lot of action, a lot of made up drama, and that's about it.
The only thing I really want to watch the movie because I want to know if they got Tobey Maguire to come back, because he hasn't been acting, and
it hasn't been released either.
No, I think that's a spoiler that they want to keep. I mean, Garfield, he'll come back. Like, he's just whatever. He's got free time. But really, I think it'd be harder maybe to get Garfield, even though I think he's free, because of the way that ended. Like, it wasn't a good divorce. Marvel and him, like that. He wanted to do, I think, a number of more Spider-Man movies, and they're basically like, yeah, no, like, enough.
Yeah, I think he wanted some pull in how the storylines were going.
Right.
And I think they cut him for that. I think they said, no, you're not getting any more movies. We'll move on to somebody else.
I don't blame them, because they killed off the father and the daughter in back-to-back movies.
Yeah, poor guy. Like, lost his love interest in the second flick, and then they
couldn't do that to Kristen Dunst.
Yeah, I mean, not a fan, clearly.
No.
But yeah, so anyone out there, I mean, it's coming out Thursday, I think, Friday. So I still have to watch the second one. You still have to watch the first 2. So, well,
is that a movie you'll go to in theaters, or wait?
No, probably not.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. If you have Disney Plus, any of those movies come out like 2 weeks, a month later after release. So it's not like you're going to be waiting long to watch it. Yeah. Well, I mean, all those Marvel movies are on there. So
a show I want to start watching that I haven't watched yet, and I think it's on Amazon Prime. You might know this better than me. Ted Lasso.
Apple Plus owns that. Yeah.
The one
it might be worth it.
I don't have.
Well, it's two seasons, and I think like most subscriptions, you probably get the first month for free. The
Oh,
only problem with you finding enough time to dice
but
up two seasons.
they're short episodes, I think.
Yeah, they are short episodes, so maybe rip it during the day if you had some time off, because I
Right.
mean, there's not much sports during the day until juniors.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I heard it's very, very, very good,
Yeah.
and well, it's won multiple Emmys, so it's got to be somewhat decent.
Yeah, it's a comedy that I would like to start a new one because I can only rewatch The
Yeah.
Office and Seinfeld, and I'm watching Family Guy again right now, and that.
Couple shows I want to throw at you that are sitcoms, kind of the same
Okay.
premise of The Office. Curb Your Enthusiasm, that one you've ever watched?
Yeah, I've watched a few seasons. I really enjoyed it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
good.
something you could keep watching, because I think there's like, I want to say there's like 11, 10 seasons of those.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I should get back into that. No, it's a good one. I
One,
love Larry David, so that's a check.
right, and one show I've always wanted to watch, I've never have, but the comedy seems great. Is Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Is that a show you've watched,
Yes.
or? Yeah,
Yeah, it's great. Yeah,
is
I
it?
would recommend that to anybody. It's funny. Yeah, it's got some really cool characters, and yeah, no, two really good ones. And but yeah, I've seen Family Guy's getting taken off Netflix, so I've been kind of binging that
Ooh.
because I want to, that's a good place to
Is
watch
it?
it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Is there a reason, or is it just because?
I probably maybe I think it's kind of like a contract that you sign and you kind of run out of runtime.
Honestly, I think it's going to Disney Plus. Maybe I'm getting that wrong,
No, I
but
think
I
you're
think,
right. I think you're right. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
which is so funny.
Yeah. Oh,
You guys going to Disney Plus.
yeah. It's interesting. Like, I think we spoke about the last weekend about McFarlane and his jokes and how they're so opposite to Fox.
Yeah,
Well, pretty opposite to Disney and who
yeah.
they
Mickey
model their.
Mouse is not exactly parallel. But
Yeah.
no. Breaking Bad. Obviously, like I said, the World Juniors are in a couple weeks. Hopefully they can play for God's sake. Oh, Dirk, he just knocked. It's okay. But I honestly say that, jokingly, but not really, because I'm not putting anything past anybody at this time. So hopefully the kids can play and enjoy that. And then, but big game for your Leafs tonight. They got the Oilers, which I'm sure everybody who doesn't like checking is very, very enthused to watch that game tonight.
Let's go, baby. Is that in TO, or is that out
That's
west?
in Edmonton.
Ooh.
10 o'clock though. It's not too late. 10 o'clock.
I'll catch half a period probably before I
Yeah.
hit the snooze button.
Right. Yeah. No, 10 o'clock's not bad. First period's done by 20 to 11. That's a good little time for you to hop in bed.
Yeah. Celtics big dub last night, and not to pump my own hires, but it's nice to see
Yeah.
them pull
Yeah. Big
off
win
enough
over
of
the
them.
Bucks. Steph Curry is going for the all-time 3 record tonight
Yes.
at Madison Square Garden. So some good sports tonight. And then obviously half the sports world has COVID. So I'm sure we'll see some reserves that we haven't heard of play some meaningful minutes down the stretch here. But Shay, we'll be back next week before old St. Nick comes and visit you. But as always, have a good week and stay healthy.
Yeah. You stay healthy as well.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to us tonight. As always, always a great chat. And we'll be back next week to talk about episodes 13 and 14 of season 5 of Breaking Bad. Until then, we'll chat soon.